That makes October 7th at 12:02 p.m. City of Port Orange and IUPA negotiations will go around the room. I'm Heather Carzales with the City of Port Orange.
Gary Wilson, attorney for the union.
Jared Alvasados, acting president of the union.
Jeremy Bird, union secretary.
Ted Kurtz, union treasurer.
He's in there.
Interim Chief Bill Brockton.
Rick Gertis, Human Resources. Matt Jones, City Attorney.
We want to just, because we know we're going to have a lot of discussion, do we want to discuss this first section?
Yeah, you got more on the agreement?
Yeah, so we've had the discussion. It sounded like we only had a couple things we wanted to change. I think we've made those changes. The only thing I would point out is that number one, we currently have that rate of the 17. I would just ask that, that be a flexible one we're right in the middle of negotiating a rate right now. So that's the only thing that I would tell you not to, have in concrete here, but the rest of the changes will be part of our form as long as you guys are okay with that.
Can you just add in the words to say that it would be at least $17 an hour? That way it leaves it open right automatically. It could be higher. To address that, so you don't have to change it.
We would, at some point, we would lock it in at whatever rate it is. I don't want to just leave it open because we'll have to document whatever the rate is. So,
Okay.
Or would you want to just leave it blank?
I could just leave it blank there. I guess we can consider it as a blank. That'd be fine. Or just put it in the 17 is where we're at right now.
Okay.
It looks pretty good.
I think the other,
All
thank you for getting it. I guess Carly sent it to us.
Probably it's the one.
But I think the other things we discussed last time are non-returnable and or non-reusable.
Yeah, basically, like if we were going to be able to take it back in and review, we were going to give him the knock for it, and it makes complete sense. And that's in practice, that's what we're doing. But we wanted to make it clear, and I understand that.
Okay. I think we're fine with those changes.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with it. I think I said that's just us basically trying to, where I see you could have an issue, but I like it's brought up. I think if you have a recruit who's coming in and scanning it this hard, then you probably don't want
You want to just throw an initial on one of those, and
Yes.
we'll call it a day. So you strike the 17 and just leave that as a blank.
You want us to put 10-7-21 on?
Yes, please.
Yeah, 10-7.
All right, we set? So kind of as we were just saying, as time goes on, things change, and we've kind of been watching what other entities are doing. We've talked about what the land is doing, what the county is doing, and things like that. So last time we met, I think we also kind of tossed out the idea of lump sum payments. So this is the proposal that I have for you today. So while that's going around, pretty short and sweet. We're starting a new officer at $21 an hour and going up from there. I left an additional step of step 17. There was a gap between officer step 17 and a probationary sergeant to still allow for an increase there. And in addition, we're offering $500 lump sum for every year of service from Beta Pack. So what that means is the average increase on your entire membership would be $1.37 an hour, which equates to about $3,074 a year on wages. The average lump sum to your membership would be $4,089, making the average total increase on the year $7,163. Some of them are as high as $11,860.
Can you go back over those numbers?
Yep. So the average dollar an hour increase is $1.37, which is $3,074 a year based on 2184 hours.
That's the lump sum,
No, that's the step increase.
$1.37.
And then the lump sums would be $500 per year for every year of service.
Okay.
So the average lump sum payoff would be $4,089.
Would the lump sum be pensionable?
Or I don't believe I haven't looked at your ordinance, but I don't believe it will allow for it. I think it specifically excludes lump sums, if I'm not mistaken.
Can we get some clarification on that?
It's being proposed as non-pensionable.
it's being proposed.
That is the offer on the table, it's
Okay.
non-pensionable lump sum.
So I'm clear on it. The way you're describing it is the officer, this contract goes into effect and a year 6 officer gets handed a check for a $500 per year thing. So say a $3,000 check, is that pre-tax post tax?
That would be pre-tax, so you have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, then, Heather, do you want to hit on the other option that you have there is that.
Yeah, so it does say
457.
you could also roll it over, right? So if
It's a
you're
great
truly
way to-
getting this big lump sum and you
You're
want
right.
to roll it to your 457,
Uh,
you can defer your federal income taxes
Okay.
on it and then stick it in your 457 and let it grow and get interest. That's certainly an
We
option.
definitely recommend that.
And if they get,
You can.
I don't know who's closest to being an accountant in the room.
I'll be me, I can tell you that.
I just know, I know from settlements and other employment cases.
So that's 500 for every year of service.
Correct. Would it be taxed at the withholding rate that's on file because the IRS
Correct, it would be
treats
taxed
a
as,
lump sum payment as they view it as that's what your pay is all the time and they can bump you into a higher tax rate.
right, so it would not be taxed at a 22% supplemental
Okay.
rate. It would not be like considered a separate payment. It would go with whatever you have claimed on your W-4, right?
Okay.
So it could, you might pay a little bit more in taxes on it and then you would
Okay.
have to, get it back when you file your tax returns, looking at the total aggregate for the year,
Yeah,
which is why maybe rolling it.
but it wouldn't be
over
taxed
to
at the supplemental.
Correct, it would not be. No. And then the option could also be, we can work with employees, if you really, hey, I really only need 2,000, we'll roll the rest, so to kind of reduce your tax liability, but give you some take-home pay as well, we can split it up
I was
if
gonna
the
say,
employee wanted to.
If somebody want to do the split option where they say, oh, maybe I used the 6-year officer, I'd like to have 1,500 now, the 1,500 rolled into my retirement.
We can do something like that, they just have to communicate with us if they want.
What Jeremy just pointed out is we're looking at these numbers, everything above at 14, excuse me, the 15-year mark and the 16-year mark and the 17-year mark, they're getting pay cuts.
You're saying
It's a reduction in pay for
They're
year
going,
15.
they're at
16.
25.75, it says 25, or excuse me, 15 is at 26.27, going to 26.25. And then year 16 is going 26.79 and 26.65.
So simple math, that's just starting at 21, doing 1.5% between each step.
So we did, okay, so this proposal doesn't have the percentage steps that we had in the previous contract.
Correct, so it was 1.7 between your first 4 steps, and then there was 1.3 between 4 and 5, and then it was 2% from there on forward. For officers, for sergeants, it was a straight 2% across the board between all steps. It looks like for the officers, there was less of a percent in between steps in the beginning, and then it got bigger towards the bottom half of the steps. Right, so in order for me to raise the starting rate to stay within what we have within the budget, we had to put less of a percent between those steps.
I think-
Employees will still step up.
Heather, I think the thing that would make it a lot more palatable, since the guys at the end are getting minimal or kind of just like a wiggle back a little bit, that lump sum needs to be pensionable. For
I
the
think
guys that are
ordinance
at the
gonna
end.
prohibit us from doing that. I can pull it up real quick.
Because that's also gonna put money into the pension, which is gonna make more sound, which is good for everybody. So it's kind of a win.
And we may have to,
For that to be,
To make it, reasonable.
Gary has a good point, Heather, and on step 17, the problem I see is I don't want to go to those officers and tell them that I don't want to tell them they're getting any reduction. I would have an easier time showing them that 17's coming off and using
Use those
changing
dollars to-
providing it to the 15 to 16. It's just I don't want to tell them there's a reduction.
Yeah, I think there might be these 2 points. One, you brought up that about if it's pensionable, you're checking, but if we eliminated step 17, we'd use those dollars for 14, 15, and 16.
That certainly sounds like it would be a possibility to make that work.
What would you
As long as that's pensionable, it makes sense.
What's your raise?
So here's
Raise
the
be 10.
definition of
What's that?
compensation.
My rate right now, 26.79.
So your rate- So you take a 2 cent, or, excuse me, you take a
I would go up a couple pennies. I mean, it's fucking changed.
27. You're at what?
26.79.
You're at 26.79.
So
And
it's like
so,
26 cents.
you know, just again, to help you guys out, you know,
Yeah.
with
That's where
math,
the-
right?
That's where it balances.
16-year officer would get a lump sum payment of $8,500.
Correct.
Based on the raise plus the 500 per year.
That's just the lump
But-
sum. So the
Gary-
total increase,
Gary, if they take out year 17 though, the guys are getting hit for $500 because that's
Oh,
not
that's
there.
true.
No,
So that's
That's
not good.
say that again?
if you take out 17, then officers
taking
that have 17
$500
or
off.
more
Yeah.
would only get 16
That's
lump
true.
sum, 16 years
No, no, no. My lump sum is off your date of hire. So if you have 19 years, you get 19 years credit.
Oh.
regardless of the
It's not
step.
yours, correct.
Okay,
The
Doesn't
line
depend
is
on
off
the
of date of
Then
hire,
it would be
however many
okay.
years you have, not what step.
okay.
Okay,
Right, so even though you may top out in steps, you don't top out in years of service.
that makes sense.
So,
Okay. And then ordinance you have?
so I'm reading this from the definition section of the police pension ordinance. Compensation means the monthly salary paid a member by the city for work performed arising from that employment to include overtime payments up to 300 hours per year paid from a salary fund, lump sum payments for accumulated sick and annual leave upon termination of employment, but not to exceed the hours of sick and annual leave accumulated as of March 1st, 2011, plus one half paid March 1st, 2011, 2012. Amounts withheld for tax sheltered annuities, deferred compensation programs, or any other type of salary reduction plan authorized under the IRS code, and payments in addition to the employee's base rate of pay if all of the following apply. The payments are paid according to a formal written policy that applies to all eligible employees equally. Payments are paid for as long as the employee continues his or her employment, and the payments are paid at least annually. Compensation shall exclude lump sum payments for accumulated sick and annual leave on or after March 2012, except as provided above. Compensation for any plan year shall not include any amounts in excess of the maximum amount specified in section 401A17 of the IRS code. Adjusted in accordance with U.S. Treasury Department regulations, compensation for any plan year shall not include overtime compensation in excess of 300 hours per calendar year, lump sum payments for accumulated annual sick leave upon termination of employment for more than the hours of sick leave is accumulated as of March 1st, 2011, plus one half, or extra duty or special detail work performed on behalf of a second party employer. Notwithstanding the definition of compensation above, compensation for employees hired after January 31st, 2011 shall exclude lump sum payments for accumulated sick and annual leave. A lot.
And Gary, just to be clear, that's, kind of two questions here. One is like, you're getting at, is it legally permissible? And I'm kind of touching on, this hasn't been authorized by the city council. The council didn't authorize a lump sum, pensionable lump sum. They've authorized, as part of this proposal that's in front of you, a lump sum. It's not pensionable. That's been made clear.
Does,
I would imagine the lump sum that we did last year as well, probably.
I would say
correct.
It
It wasn't last year.
does the council care what it's pension for?
So there's a dollar cost, right? So pensionable is 54.55% of those earnings, so you're gonna increase it by.
So there's some
1.5
cost to the city if it's pension.
Absolutely.
times. And to the employee, right? So I've got somebody on here who would get $11,000 payout at 7.5%. It's a sizable chunk, right, coming out of that payment. So would you be better off, we're only gonna do a 457 and letting it get interest and earnings there?
Is this, and this is, we're doing a year one contract, we're doing a 1 year contract on this? Because I didn't hear anything about a 2 year.
I would be happy to entertain a reasonable counteroffer that included a 2-year agreement.
Well, I would, if we're gonna attack a lump sum type thing, the feedback I got was I would rather bring it to a 1 year and come back to you guys, because the talkings about the 2 year was with the idea that 10% and then X was that 2 year mark. So if we're not in that ballpark, then I would prefer to bring a year one to the bargaining unit. That way I can say, hey, This is a 1 year. What I'm gonna do is, basically, I'm just gonna bring it to everyone and say, hey, this is what the city's offering. Do you guys wanna vote on it? Do you wanna go back to the table? What do you wanna do? And then that way I can give you a response that comes from the bargaining unit and not just me as the mouthpiece. Because I want everyone to have their share. With like I said, the only 2 points of contention I see a little bit is that 15, 16 year mark. I just don't want to tell an officer they're getting a reduction. Just trying to, the 2665 to 27 is 40 cents. So, right, so 20, these two are the ones taking reduces.
It wouldn't be a reduction. Someone's at 16, they'd be going to 17.
When they
That's
step
15.
up,
They step up.
Right, so before they step up, so for example, like I see what he's saying.
Like right now, there's-
27 would go down to 26.5.
Right now, the
until he
15 year
steps up.
guy's he's at 26, 27, and he would go, once this is ratified, to 26, 25,
Until he stepped up.
until he stepped up.
Well, couldn't you put something in there and said that they stay at their current pay rate until they're not taking a reduction?
I mean, I would like to, like I said, I mean, that's pennies. I just don't want to,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't want to slap an
Put in the
officer in the
numbers
face
and
like that.
everything,
It's
right?
a
So I
budget
think
year.
certainly
Are you,
Yeah.
you guys step up on, your anniversary
The
date?
date of hire anniversary.
And that happens again on 16, unless there's that
That's
14
where
cent. Right.
It's not as jump.
You go from 2679 to 2665.
It could just be a portion of the year.
So that's the only 2 steps where I see, it happens at step at
Yeah.
16 too.
And deleting
It goes
seven,
down.
deleting 17 to your point,
Huh?
they probably give us the room.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
It does, yeah, so
To
I'm
adjust that.
tweaking some numbers here,
Yeah,
right? So
we'll-
if we eliminate
You
17,
get
put
8,500
a
back.
few more pennies back in
No.
the 15 and 16.
You might get there.
Yeah.
Pre-tax, I probably get like
Mine's-
Mine's right at a $5,000, I'm afraid, I take it all around 3,500.
Heather's saying that if they do eliminate step 17, they still get the $500 a year pay, but they could take those dollars to correct the 2 cent reduction at 15 and the 14 cent reduction at 16.
pushing pennies though. I mean, the
Yeah,
amount is
just-
only, what, 40 cents?
Yeah.
It's only 40 cents from that step to divide between a couple
Yeah.
steps anyway. Could you bring up the year, those last couple of years without, I mean, that's not gonna be that many people.
So,
I don't want to steal,
Cost
like,
bottom.
again, that's that starting wage, and I appreciate it on the basis of recruiting. It's a great number. It's a good number to have. I wanted to get away from that 20, because I think even corrections right now is finishing up and they're going to 21. So, the starting, I'm glad to see that change. It's a positive change and I appreciate it, because I think it's gonna pull in a little bit more. But I don't want to steal that money from the officers that are here.
nope, absolutely not.
Yeah, fortunately, the 21 is that is a direct from council.
Right.
We are going to start at 21.
Which
That's
Right, and I'm good with that. I mean, that's
And the
that's
sheriff's office.
that's us
has
as
done the land
our
use.
advice to you, us, because
You probably know that.
I have no control over who we're hiring.
So we could
So-
do something like, so step 15, and I'm just playing around with some numbers here,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
mean, I-
2633, and then step 16, make it be 2681.
So it's up 2
Oh,
cents.
Right, at least you're going up something, right?
6 cents.
So you step
on-
up, but you're not taking a decrease, it's step up.
2633 and 2681.
Heather, do you think that, I mean, looking at the amount of people that are actually at that range or even close to that range, the cost is probably minimal, because a lot of people aren't even there yet. I mean, there's not that many guys with 15, 16, 17 years in our department. There's a handful probably that are officers. So it's not really impacting the city that much to give that handful a reasonable raise, I would think. It's different when you have the lower portions and that's the bulk of the membership, but these are not that many people that are up that high.
Heather, do you have in front of you the percentage scale, or just something that shows the percentages? If it's something that's closer, you instead of, because I mean, it's obviously at a 15-year mark here, or let's just say the 14-year mark for sake of argument. It's less than it's obviously less than
Right.
1% raise.
So those are 1.5% between the step. So the numbers that I've been playing around with, right? So I put between step 14 and step 15 in order for it not to be a decrease from the current step.
Right.
I put in a 9%, right? So go from 2587 to
We've all done that by 1.09.
2636, and then again to 2686. So that
Not
would
9%,
be, it would be.
1.9%. Not 9%.
Yes. Sorry,
I
1.9%.
was gonna say 9%.
Sorry,
Yeah.
1.9%.
What, you know,
Okay, lock it in, Matt.
to go to round, I don't know what the percent would be, but just think that, I'm just gonna throw out a number. What if step 15 was 26.50 and step 16 was $27 even? And then you've got your first sergeant's pay starting again 50 cents higher, it's 27.50. You're going in a 50-cent increment from 15 to 16, and then you're starting sergeant's pay. So you still got that difference that you wanted. You wouldn't want a sergeant being less than a.
Or even just doing, whether we do a flat dollar or 2%, right? If I just
Right.
did steps 15 and 16 at 2%, that would take it to 2638 and 2691. And I still think that's doable.
What are the two numbers?
2691.
2691 for step 16 and 2638 for step 15.
2630.
So what's 17 do?
17.
So then there would be in step 17.
That would
We
be
top out at step
117.
16.
So it's
Oh, you
actually
stop.
a pay reduction for anybody that's over that.
But we don't have anybody at step 17 right now because we only have 16 steps. So we wouldn't be adding a new step.
I know the proposal has 17,
Yeah, we're gonna take that money and give it to these guys.
but it actually is a less pay rate because they're moving it down.
Here,
Instead of just,
could we
what,
make
2690 something?
can we make, if you want to reduce that,
Right, so if you're at step 16 now with 2679, you
Right.
could go to 2691.
So you lose money. Because they're eliminating 17, paying 16.
if we're going to eliminate 17? Or do we just keep,
17.
we're talking, that's my new difference.
We're talking.
We're eliminating.
Can we keep 17
15, 16.
with,
Right.
that's a, what is that,
But
12
the
cent
pay rate
raise?
here is going to be lower than the 16. This is
And
actually.
that way I don't have to,
So
and
somebody
that
that's got
that way I don't
17
have to
years
bring it
is
up
gonna get
in the
less
future. Next year I don't have to bring up the 17.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we don't want these two to make sense.
I could bring up the
You already have
23, right.
17, you don't need to bring it up again.
I want to have 17.
Absolutely. Chief, how many people do we have that are 16, 17 in our department?
I can tell you.
I mean, it can't be that many, that it's making some big impact to the city's numbers. There's no way.
That's what I want to make sure. There's 2 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
Well, she's. So this could be a 1 year. I'm assuming that
The 500 under subsection D, that's a 1 year. Would you make it, if we wanted to go 2 years, would you do
you
it?
want to do 2 years.
As much as I like you guys and doing this, if we could get it, my preference, would be 2
Wait,
years.
Is it going to, let me ask you a question, because is this so we can use that chunk of money, the lump sum?
Correct, so we've
Okay.
talked about, we won't use the lump sum money for recurring payments like salaries, but a lump sum payment to one-time lump sum payment, that's
So how
apples to
do-
apples,
so
right?
What can I do when I go back to the bargaining unit and I say, this is what the city's offering in a 1 year,
And they're open to it.
and then the next year, when we come back, what can I do to make the city council better prepared budgetary wise? Because we keep
So that's
having
the advantage
this
of a
budget
2 year, right?
thing, right?
If we could lock in a 2-year now, we know what we have to set the budget at to be able to afford what we lock into the contract for next year.
Right, so
That's the advantage of
there
doing
was-
2 year.
And I would, am I correct to assume there was no thought to do the 2-year? You just wanted to stick with the 1 year? Because I'm
We
not,
didn't have, we
I'm not
invested
hearing
10 at the 1, so there wasn't any discussion on the 2-year, because it started with 10-1, and then
Right.
we'll come back on the 2 so
I would
it kinda
like-
got amended.
the idea, like I said, what I was aiming for was that being able to hit that 10% mark with the expectation that there was a 2-year contract, that way the city felt better on that year 2 and not feeling like they were gonna get blindsided. So I could, but if we're at a 1 year with this and we're at, I think it's something like a 4%. Without the-
To answer your
without the
question real
lump sum.
quick, there are 9 officers between 16 and 19 years,
So that's a fraction.
so.
We have what, 94?
I would bring Jared.
No, you got 61 officers
6, that's all?
for police. Well, that's not counting vacancies, right? This is just actual
The 10%
officers.
proposal was a 2-year deal, giving the city the opportunity to come back with a year 2 percentage. So they weren't, so the idea wasn't that they were blindsided. and-
So when you go out, what do you think about maybe going out to your folks and giving them this? And if you can come back with, we're good with this one, if we have a 2-year, this is what the 2-year will be, almost like a proposal for the second to see if we can just go ahead and hash that out to have 1 and 2, but at least accepting a 1 year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
We'd like to hash that
the
out
feed,
in a
well,
second.
I think the feedback goes back to that. If I'm doing the rough math and it's a 4% on this side, then I have to aim for 6% on the 2-year or 5 or
Are
something
you
like
doing
that.
math on just officers or everybody?
I'm doing, on this.
I got, real quick, my 30-second math, I got an average of 6%.
On
So
this.
my math is correct.
On year 2, do a 5%. I mean, because that would get you to 10 that you were trying.
I mean, it's not, I mean, I can certainly propose it. So basically on the, if I brought it to the bargaining unit and said, hey, the city also said, if we want to do a 2-year agreement, the year 2 mark would be not tapered, but I'd have to make it simple, is you would get a 5 for wherever you're at, it's a 5% raise. Understand what?
The city could already plan for that.
You want to do a straight across the
Go
board.
down the line, 5%.
Just wherever you're
As
at.
Increase your
opposed to
steps
this.
5, increase the steps 5%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you would step up and you would get 5% higher step.
Correct, every wage would just get a 5% increase
So
on that year 2 mark.
10-year of 24.
Because then I'm at that 9%, and I think that the lump sum's 2 ways, it would, some people will value it, and others will say, well, it doesn't have any value for whatever their life decision is, so I wanna have some options.
And we can bring that back. I would just say that, so here's the thing, we're already after October 1, right?
Right.
We know there's not retro anything
Right.
on the table, so in order to speed it along, we may want, and this is just some thoughts for bringing it to your folks, you may want to get this 1 year, like, we're all good with that, and you can propose a 2-year, but at least you'll tell us, hey, we can do the 1 as a standalone,
Yes.
here's a 2 as an option if the city's willing, if not, fine, we'll do the 1 and get it done, but what I don't want to do is hold it up so long
I
that these guys
don't
don't.
either, because
Yeah, well,
trust me.
yeah.
I'm-
Yeah, you want your check.
First thing no, it's not even that, I'm getting yelled at all across the room from people, will we pass October 1 again?
And if we could lock this up so we don't have to do it again next year, again, that would be my
I think
preference.
that's-
Sit-
I think the faster sell would be a 1 year. And I just have to, and we have to just, I want to, be able to come to you and go, listen, this is budgetary mind, this is what I need to focus on. That way you guys have time to do it, and there's no, I don't want to come next year and be like, I know I said 7, but I'm saying 23. I don't want to do that to you. I want it to be easy, but I have to make it workable. I have to sell it to the bargaining unit members. I want them to be happy. because I don't want them to go. I don't want them to leave. I don't want them to be bitter. I want them to be happy. So I would probably focus this as a 1 year, just for the sake of the speed idea, but yeah. If you could give us like a 5-10 minute,
You guys want to talk this?
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. see what we're.
Here's, we listened and heard you say that the city would be open to a 2-year deal. So here's what we are prepared to do. Jared said they can call a meeting within a couple, pretty quickly. And since we are past October 1st, we'd like to get this done quickly. The union intends to take your proposal today for a vote. We would like the steps that you mentioned, the 1516, the 2630, the 2691. We would like step 17 back in. And we'll take that to a vote as is. If you all can let us know before they go have their actual meeting, they will also take a 2-year deal. Everything else, as is in this proposal, with just 6% across the board.
For year 2.
Year two.
The way the city can plan for it in their budget workshops.
No step increases, leaving the 17. So if you can get that to me, and I have that to provide, to say, hey, this is also an offer from the city. What would you guys rather vote on? And then I can get that done.
They'll definitely vote on the 1 year. They'll vote on the 2 year if you have had time to get approval and authority for them to.
So let me make sure I understand. When you say year 2, the step increases by 6%, or
No,
your
the year
current
2
rate of pay
contract,
Just
increases?
6% across the board.
So for example, let's say you move up to step 4 and you're at 2229.
Correct.
22,
Next year you get 6% off of 2229.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And the 22.
And that becomes step 5?
No.
Because then you would still step up to whatever 6% is off of 2262.
Correct. The proposal is on that year 2 mark. Basically, all the wages get a 6% raise.
You're asking for everything from 21 to 2665 go up 6%.
Correct.
But then you also step up.
With the
Well, you're
normal,
stepping up.
right,
Yeah.
the normal step
But that
percentages,
would,
that would
take
not
effect October.
asking to change that. Now, we're not changing the step percentages, I'm just saying take 6% and add it to the wages down.
So we're increasing the steps by 6%.
Yes.
Correct,
Okay.
So step 4 would
not the
be.
percentage.
Step
Right, the
7.
percentage would still be, let's say, 1.5
Yes,
between.
yes.
And I don't know that math will come out, right? So 6% of 2132 and 6% of 2665 is gonna be different, right? So it may not keep the 1.5% spread between the
Sure,
steps.
correct.
So step.
That's why this is where it gets a
Okay.
little complicated,
Yeah.
so I'll have to kind
You're
of work
right.
in place some numbers. But
So step 4 would go from 2229 to 2363.
The starting pay would go up to 2226.
And that actually would help you keep pace, DeLand is gonna be 2246.
Yeah, well,
But the sheriff's gonna be this 22.
sure. And,
Um,
and then, this council's committed to being competitive in that market. So I think, we can definitely, we'll bring it back,
Yep.
obviously, but if we can at least settle on the 1, the 17, I think, Heather, jump in, but we
And
can
we're not
take it
asking
from, we can take it from
17 to
somewhere
go any
else.
higher, just leave it at 2705.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, for us, it's like we're working with a finite amount and we're trying to figure out how to get 17 out of what we were able to get the 15, 16 up from the 17. So I think that's gonna be that's the tricky part. Yeah. Is there a way to crunch somewhere? Is there somewhere else where,
We're pretty,
other than 21, I can't touch 21, but is there another area that we could crunch?
yeah, because it looks like I would have, if you added step 17, I think I would have 8 people that would step up, right? So
Sure.
I'll have to cost that out and see what that would be great, so. We're talking huge dollars, but like Matt said, I got a finite amount of work in it. so.
Right.
How fast do you think you can get to council about the 2-year proposal?
I would probably be calling executive session.
We need to plan for our union meeting.
Sure.
So,
And while they're planning your meeting, you have their word that at least the 1 year will go to vote. They're planning now, but tell us very quickly if 17 is it is no longer in play, or if it's coming off at 2638, or if 2638 and 2691 needs to go down slightly, I mean, very slightly, to put back in step 17, let us know. Our preference would be to leave it where it is and step 17 and 2705.
I'll have to get everybody's calendars and see, when they're available, so.
That's gonna extend it. I mean, we're gonna have to recalculate. We'll have to, I mean, if it's more money, I gotta go back to council. So I mean, I can't, that's gonna extend this process to have 17 back. We'll do it. We will, give the council, we'll try to figure that out. But if without just adjusting the numbers that we have here today, that's gonna be another back and forth. Just let you know that.
Is there
Even if
something-
it's a small back and forth, it's a back and forth.
Is there something you can do today without going back to the council, leaving in step 17, but not going up to 2638, 2691?
Yeah, I
Is there
think-
some number slightly below that?
That's what I'm saying. We can tweak.
Right.
I say we, but I mean, Heather's kind of helped us get the numbers crunched. If you have any ideas on where that should come from.
So right now there's a 13. In print, you have 2625. Verbally mentioned 2638, so that's 13 cents.
The mindset almost is, it seems, take the 2705 on step 17 and make it 16. I mean, what's the difference?
Well, the 15 still be.
Well, yeah, so I mean, we work on 15 and 16, 16 being 2705.
Or 27 and add the rest.
Right, and then the rest, 15 gets the rest to make up the difference. And that way you're not moving money around.
So something along the lines of,
Because the step doesn't do me any favors if there's no money attached to it. Right? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. Step
It's not
9,
money.
step 9 billion, but you still make the same, doesn't matter. So if why don't we just take the step 17 number, make it 16? And use those cents that we were just applying to 15 and 16 and fix 15. So that we no longer would have to fix 16.
So keep it 16, but just make 16 27.5.
Right. I mean,
quite a bit.
Once again, you probably
right, I know. But if we're talking about the purpose of the finite money,
Yeah.
without having to ask for we're solving,
So kind of where, it would, and again, we could maybe play with 16, right? So if we did 15 at 2630, which would just be 3 cents above where it currently is, but this is not decrease. So 2630, 2670, and then 2705. So I could actually take some off at 16, put it back to 15.
so 15 would be what? 2630. And 16 would be what?
2670.
Playing with numbers here,
Okay.
right? So
And then you would still have a 17 or 2705.
No, we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
The 17 would become 16 basically.
We're not 17.
Because the argument here is that 17 means nothing if there's no actual raise.
Take 17 off, add it to 15 and 16. We'll take it to
All
a
of that. There you go.
That way you don't have to go back to council.
Yeah.
Or delay the process.
Yeah, and the one question we'll say, we'll say, hey, this is the last week. And the one question is your 6% second year.
Right.
We can lock that in now, or we can just accept it.
Yeah, year one.
And if,
So 15, 2640, 16, 26, 60. Well, that's something like that.
Well,
That's
that's
a
still,
pay cut.
that's still a pay cut, that's what we're trying to wait on.
Yeah,
Trying to get more money to 15.
I just I don't want to cut anyone. If we had 15 as 2640 and made 16 2705,
I think that's where I want to be. 1,000.
Matt, if there is interest in a second year at that 6%, just across the board, we'd like to have the council consider if it's possible to make the $500 per year service pensionable. I know it would require amending the ordinance, but there would be time to do it between now and next year.
Is that what you want with the second?
If they would be agreeable to amending the ordinance to say that.
No, I'm saying so the second year would be another 500 deal with, and make it eventual. So
Well, it'd be 500, yes. The same, everything but just 6% across the board. I'm just asking an additional on top of that to say, would they be agreeable to at least looking at amending the ordinance over the next year?
Yeah, again, I don't think it's an ordinance issue. I think it's a money issue, right? It's a cost, an actual cost of the pensionable nature. So, we'll bring it to them. We can bring them, hey, I'd like to be pensionable and see what they say, but.
I mean, we know this year, the ones on the table would not be.
Right.
But they would have time to at least consider whether they could do it or would be willing to do it the next year.
Just to be clear on what we're bringing back on the second year offer, is the second year offer also at $500 per year? That includes 6% and the what we just talked about, the lump sum at the end.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Leaving this clause in the agreement. D.
You want another lump sum
I don't
on
think,
top of the
I don't
6%?
think the second lump sum is doable.
no.
It's not.
I didn't think we were talking about that.
I thought we were.
I thought that was a lot.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I
that's probably gonna be
it's the lump
easy
sum,
answer.
Yeah.
I'm willing
because
to
they
take
could
it.
plan for it, but.
I said it's an easy answer, but I'm willing
Well, I
to
can
take
give you lots of easy answers.
it.
So I must have misunderstood. So the lump sum would not be included in the.
It's up to you, it's your offer.
Okay.
No, we weren't
Okay,
talking,
all
no. I want to be able to sell that. I don't want to,
Year two would be 6% across the board with no lump sum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
I wanted to have the
I'm
year,
asking for it.
I wanted to make the year two very simple.
Like I said,
Just taking that math and just doing 6%.
Okay.
down the
thought I
line,
had it.
and that way, you know the budget, and like, you're prepared for the budget, there's nothing out of the side that comes out of,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
gives you,
that gives you a surprise,
for sure. I can get you.
so, but no.
Okay.
The lump sum would be this year for year one.
Heather,
Year two,
what
Mark.
would be the process of requesting payment to 457 on lump sum? That'd be-
There's just a form. You just
form that you
email
send us?
HR, call HR and say, hey, I'd like to roll my lump sum on 457, and we basically fill out the form with your name on it. It's a ICMA form that says 100% of my lump sum goes to my 457, or 50% of my lump
50%.
sum goes to my 457.
If we're doing that with everybody and this goes through, can you just send the forms to the PD? That way we can just send them out briefing and everybody,
Yeah.
that way we get them back to you like
Yeah.
fast.
That's a great
If
idea.
we
Absolutely.
get a yes vote.
If we get the yes, just to
Sure.
streamline that.
Absolutely.
All right, so what number do you have now?
All right, 15 would be 2633.
Okay.
16 would be 2685.
Okay.
About 6 cents for both of those. That puts me where I need to be.
No.
So when should we set our meeting?
Yeah,
How much time do you guys have?
I got you.
So again, and then to go to Matt's point, so you all are gonna ask about just a 6% across the board year two.
And we're
No
stripping
lump sum,
17.
And stripping
And we're
cents.
stripping 17.
Where'd you end up on?
So 15 would be 2633.
Got it.
And 16 would be 2685.
Okay.
So let me get back
It's
to you, because I have to see when council's available, what their schedules are like. We don't have a council meeting next Tuesday, which is typically I like to piggyback off of that.
Okay.
But since we don't, I'll have to see what their availability looks like. So as soon as I can get that, I will let you guys know when I have that scheduled. And and then that way you can go ahead and schedule your meeting.
And you'll send this back to us after you make those changes.
I will, yes.
Is your sense that the city council would like a 2-year deal?
They're open to it, it's kind of the pros and cons, right? So I mean, one, it's great to have a definitive answer, but it's also very, from a big picture economics, I mean, we're kind of, there's some uncertainty in the air about what's going on, and we also have a bunch of agencies that are always kind of trying to play
Yeah.
a leapfrog game, so it gets you locked in. It's kind of what we ran into, what was it, 2018 or whatever, we
Yeah.
locked in for a few years, and we fell drastically
Right.
behind, we're like, oh crap, because we thought it was good in 18, and then everybody took off, and we're sitting
That's
here
it.
at the
Right.
starting line.
And
So
that's
now-
why I don't
Well, we
like,
could always
I don't
open
like
it, right?
three
You
years.
could always open it and renegotiate.
Oh, yeah, you
Get a
guys.
vacation at one.
But it would put your starting pay the next year at 22, 26.
Yeah, I will get, everybody back together as soon as I can. I will let you guys know I have that. I
Okay.
will amend this proposal and email it out to you guys.
Okay. All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you guys.
Thank you all for your flexibility on the starting time today.
I'm sorry I have to run a little bit early. so.
No, is it in this building where you have to go?
It's a phone in, so I'll just slip over into this room back here.
Okay.
Do it from back there.